Hello and welcome to the exciting animal series Action for Animals. We're teaming up with the animal advocacy group Action for Animals Barbados. We're seeking to educate, to enlighten and promote the highest standards of animal care in our little island. We promise to introduce you to the people who are very passionate and well versed in the correct care for animals. Last week, many of you messaged us and said how informative our session on bees was. Well, we enjoyed beekeeper Beverly Payne, and today we hope that you will enjoy the show as well. Today, it's a procedure that many of us have heard about, but we are not really sure of just what obtains. I warn you, it is a surgical procedure, and some of you may find it a little off-putting. We've blurred it out so as to ease any discomfort, but I know that the mere thought of it may be a little disconcerting, so please feel free to look away if you have to. Let's pay a visit to canine friends and let's observe their neutering and spaying program.
Okay, here the dog is surgically prepped for surgery. I'm applying the surgical drape over the dog. The area has been scrubbed clean and is ready for the spay. Just placing the blade onto the blade holder, which is used to make the incision. Okay, so we're going to make an incision, firstly in the skin, as you can see here. We then go through a fatty layer called the subcutaneous layer, and then we go through the abdominal wall, which will give us access to the abdomen. You just have to cut away a little bit of fat to get the visual. And there we are entering the abdominal wall. Make our incision a little bit larger. This is to hold the abdominal wall open so I can get better access and vision. And this is the spay hook, which is used to hook the uterus out of the abdomen, and then we'll get the uterus will be exteriorized, and so too the ovary, which are the main two organs that we are doing surgery on today. Sometimes the uterus can be a little bit fatty and the ovaries can be a little bit fatty, depending on the dog, size of the dog. Sometimes we have to make our incisions a little bit bigger, larger, so we can exteriorize the uterus and ovary. Just using the spay hook again to try and get that uterus out. Once we got a hold of the uterine horn, you can visualize the ovary. And what I'm doing is clamping what is called the pedicle. This attaches the ovary to the kidney, and this is where all the blood supply is. So we use forceps or clamps so that we can clamp off the blood supply. And then from there we use suture material then to make a ligation around this clamp. So here's the suture material. Suture material is tied just below the ovary around the pedicle. We do 2 or 3 ligations here. Make sure our knots are nice and secure and tight. You can see the anesthesia is in the background, supplying the dog with oxygen and anesthetic gas. So once the blood supply to the ovary has been ligated off, there's no risk then of bleeding from this area. We clamp off again, and then using the blade, we cut the ovary away from the pedicle. We're then left with the pedicle, which is then placed back into the abdomen. We then have a uterine horn with an ovary at the end of it, one of them. The same thing is then repeated on the other side, where we exteriorize the uterine horn and the other ovary, the second ovary, and the same procedure repeated, where the blood supply is clamped off, ligated again with suture material, and then cut free. The dog is always being monitored at this time. We have a machine called a pulse ox machine, which lets us know the heart rate, the rhythm, and also the oxygen levels. It will alarm us to any differences in heart rate or rhythm. So the same thing is repeated on this side. Just tying off the blood vessels again with the suture material. This is an absorbable suture. So in a few days' time, given time, the suture will absorb, leaving no foreign material in the dog. There's our pulse ox machine that I was telling you about, which we closely monitor during the surgery. Just about to cut out the second ovary. Pedicles placed back into the abdomen. And there then we are presented with the uterus and the two ovaries. So we have two uterine horns, two ovaries, and the cervix. This is the final stage of the spay, where we can get the complete whole out of the body. We can't clamp just below the uterus and above the cervix. So we're at the last part of the procedure at this stage, where the entire uterine body and ovaries will be removed from the dog. We use clamps, forceps again, to clamp off just below the uterus and above the cervix. Just clamping off here. There's quite a large blood supply to the uterus, so it's very hard off in preparation for ligation. Here, suture material is used again to ligate. Once the uterus and the ovaries have been removed from the abdomen, it is time for closure of the dog, which is done in the reverse order that we made our incision. The abdominal wall is closed, then the fatty layer of the subcutaneous, followed by the skin. Once the dog has been closed, Shadow will be placed on oxygen for a few minutes, and then within half an hour will be sitting up and fully recovered.
That was truly fascinating. You hear so much about how important it is for animals to be neutered or spayed, but you're never really sure just what that means and what goes into it. And so let's have a chat now as we visited Canine Friends, but Canine Friends is visiting us today on Action for Animals. We have Karen Millen, and Karen is the manager of Canine Friends and also founding trustee of the group. So nice to have you with us, Karen.
Thank you, nice to be here.
For those who may have just been watching and might be wondering, why is it so important to put my dog through that? You know, what would your answer be? What's the importance of neutering and spaying for an animal?
Right, okay, well, particularly in Barbados, there are so many animals and not enough homes. So all the shelters are full. There's a lot of dogs wandering around the streets, straying. Some of them belong to owners, but they're just let out to do their business and do what they want and come back. So obviously doing what they want also involves reproducing. So if there's a female dog in heat and you have a male, he will travel miles because he will smell that she's in heat and his hormones take over and he's racing there to get her pregnant. So that's number one, to bring down the population of the dogs, to try and ease the pressure on all the shelters and all the people that are trying their best to help the dogs and to make it more pleasant for everybody. And secondly, there's a lot of health benefits to neutering and spaying. For the females, you obviously, if you remove the uterus, then they're not going to get uterine cancer in later life, or ovarian cancers, because they're removed much like in a female woman's hysterectomy.
Yes.
With the males, you're reducing the chance of testicular cancer, because like human males, they can get cancer of the testicles. So by removing those, that goes. You're removing the desire to reproduce, because the testosterone levels don't disappear totally, but they reduce dramatically. So your male dog will not be wanting to be running off every time he smells a female in heat and doing what nature's intended.
Yes.
So it can make them calmer. It can help with some behaviours, but it's not a guarantee. Some dogs, their behaviour is caused through other things. But it's certainly, you know, a lot of people say that the dog, when it wants to pee everywhere and indoors or wherever it goes, it lifting its leg and weeing everywhere.
Right.
That can help with that too.
Okay. Now, I know that I've heard people say that, you know, but wouldn't neutering a dog make the male dog less of a male? But I noticed you said testosterone is still there, so.
Some testosterone is still there.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a human perception that particularly males put their sexuality into their male dog and think that, you know, oh, I can't deprive him of a sex life. We hear that often in the clinic with men. They'll have the girls done, but the boys, they say, oh, no. But dogs are not like humans. They don't have sex for pleasure. They'll only have sex when a female is at the right stage that she's going to be able to become pregnant. Right. Other than that, they're not interested in sex with a female.
Right. Tell us about Canine Friends. It's a sanctuary, and we've been hearing such wonderful things about it, but tell us about it.
We're not actually a sanctuary. We that's not part of our remit really to take in dogs, but we do sometimes because everywhere's full. We have a few kennels at Woodbourne Kennel where we work closely with, because our clinic is within the grounds of Woodbourne Kennel. So we do that, but our main remit is the neutering and the spaying, and it's very low cost, and it's for those people that can't afford to go to a regular clinic.
Okay.
So we ask quite a lot of questions of people when they call and ask for an appointment, because our money's precious, and every operation we do is heavily subsidised.
Oh.
Heavily subsidised. So people never ever actually pay the full cost. you know, we can't possibly get the full cost
Right.
of an operation, because else we wouldn't have anyone coming to us. So we do charge different amounts depending on people's ability to pay, because we decided that was the fairest way to do it. If you set it too low, there are other people that could pay a bit more. And as I said, our funds are precious. So we're trying to help as many people as we can. So those that really can't get their dog there, we'll pick them up in the van and bring them home again the same afternoon.
Oh, they get home the same afternoon.
Yeah.
There's no overnighting or anything.
No, there's no
like that?
overnighting. We use, as you'll probably see
Yes.
we use an anaesthetic that's widely used in hospitals around the world for humans. So, and it's quite short acting, so we keep them under with the gas mask. So the recovery is quite quick.
Any pain noticed with the animals in terms of discomfort?
Not really. They get a pain-killing shot, and they go home with antibiotics as a precaution. But they're quite different to humans. They recover so quickly, and they don't seem to be in pain. They're quite happy. Their owners come and the towels are wagging, and you know, they're anxious, obviously, to leave us, just because they want to go home. But no, they a lot of people are amazed and say, oh, you know, they ate their dinner tonight as normal, which not all of them will, but certainly the next day they should be back to feeling quite normal. The owners just go home with a care sheet, because they do need to be kept calm and not running around and jumping.
Right. With the females now, you have to factor in the heat. And how often do they go into heat? For how long, and when's the best time then to get them spayed?
Right, so most females will have a heat round about every 6 months.
6, okay.
They can have their first heat 6 months of 6 months of age is the average time, but it depends on the size of the dog. Normally, the larger dogs can come into heat earlier than a smaller one. A lot of owners don't recognise what that is. They don't understand what it is, and they don't understand when their dog is in heat. So quite often, even though we always ask, when was your dog last in heat? Most people say they don't know. So I ask them to go and check and give them some signs that they could look out for. But most weeks we get dogs and we can't operate on them because they are in heat. And the reason for that is that the blood vessels, they dilate, they're full of blood. It makes it quite difficult for the vets to see what they're doing. So it's much easier to sort of leave it a few weeks after the heat is finished, and then bring them in. And again, the heat can be 3 weeks, but it could go longer. It just so different.
It depends on the animal.
On the animal, yeah.
Okay. We're going to come back and talk with Karen a little bit more, because really and truthfully, there's so much concern these days about how we are treating our animals and what our animals expect of us. So we're going to find out a little bit more about that from Karen, because it's ultimately our goal to ensure proper animal care here on this island. We'll be back in a bit. We're chatting with Karen Millen from Canine Friends. She's the manager of the organisation and one of the founding trustees. And Karen is all around the island early in the morning picking up dogs and ensuring that they're spayed or neutered. But there are other concerns that you all have as well. Would you like to share?
Yes, just the overall care of the animals. I mean, some come into the clinic and you can see they're well loved, they're well cared for, but the majority are normally underfed. That's quite often a big thing. They've mostly all got ticks and fleas, which is another real concern, because sometimes the dogs, when the vet, they all get a health check before she starts the operation. Sometimes you can't tell there's anything wrong until she makes the first cut, and then the blood may be quite watery and runny, and that's normally a sign of tick fever.
Oh dear.
So sometimes we have to abandon the operation and send them home with 2 weeks worth of treatment tablets, and then they'll come back and then have it done when they're better.
Right.
So there's lots of concerns. We get them in. They're mostly unsocialised dogs because they've been kept on chains in yards with not a lot of human interaction. So they're absolutely terrified. Probably for a lot of them, it's the first time they've ever been in a vehicle, the first time they've left their home, the first time they've ever seen people that are not part of the family. So they come in quite nervous, and it makes it more difficult, obviously, and time consuming for us to deal with.
What do we need to understand about dogs that we're not getting?
I think there's quite a few segments to that. It's not just one issue that you can wave a magic wand at. One, it's embedded in the culture here. And a lot of Bayesians tell me that this is embedded in the culture, and a lot of them are involved with us, and they're trying to change that amongst their own communities. We all learn from our parents and how we've been brought up. So
right.
if that's the way the dogs have always been treated in your world.
So we see them as guard dogs and protective animals, but we don't see them as sentient beings that they hurt, they love. They feel pain.
Exactly that. Exactly that. They're more a possession to some people than, as you say, a sentient being.
Right.
And some people don't even realise what their dog is capable of. Sometimes we get people come to the clinic, and they see the dogs in the kennel, in the rescue kennel there, and they say, "Oh, why can't my dog look like that? Why doesn't my dog behave like that?"
Because it hasn't been socialised.
Exactly, and it's not had the care, like it needs treating for ticks and fleas. They don't magically go away.
Right.
And putting engine oil on them and petrol is not going to help. We get that quite often, not as much as we used to.
Right.
But we do still see it, that they'll come in and they've got oil or something someone's tried to do before they brought them in.
Right.
So that again, you need to go and talk to your vet. You need to get a proper product that only you available really from a vet, and there's a cost to that.
And they need love.
They definitely need love.
They give it.
They do.
But they also need it.
And training.
Yes.
And socialisation, and that's very, very important. Unfortunately, a lot of people want a puppy. They see neighbours have had puppies, their dogs. It's cute. Of course they're cute. All little baby animals are cute. So they want the puppy, and a lot of the neighbours don't do home checks or discuss the suitability. They just, I want to get rid of these dogs. Yeah, you have this puppy. And they're all over it, and the children are, it's wonderful. The novelty wears off.
It grows up.
It's had no training. So it jumps, it barks, and it's a nuisance. And they don't want it. And the shelters can't take it because they're full. So they either abandon it, or they just leave it on a chain at the end of the garden. It annoys the neighbours, they get poisoned. It's just really bad.
Yeah. We've got to do better. We've got to do better. So how can we get in contact with Canine Friends? Can't believe the time has flown already.
The best way is to send us a WhatsApp message on 248 1552. It's quite difficult to answer the phone because I'm either out driving or I'm doing something in the clinic.
Understood.
We ask people not to leave messages on the phone because I haven't got the time to be monitoring the mailbox. So if you do a WhatsApp message, someone will get back to you.
Excellent.
Or you can email us at caninefriendsbarbados@gmail.com.
And that's Barbados completely spelled out?
Yes. And it's a letter K and a number 9.
Yes.
Or people can send us a message on Facebook. Again,
Excellent.
Canine Friends Barbados.
Thank you so much, Karen. I hope that this goes a long way to help people, and if they need any assistance, you can ask a question. Thank you so much for joining us again on our Action for Animals series. We'll be with you again next Monday. Until then, love your animals. They'll give you some unconditional love in return. Stay safe. Bye-bye.